Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we talk about what if Bell was a B.O.W. So, in the last video we talked about how Bell became this B.O.W, or more specifically, a new tyrant type by the name of Tyrant Type Zeus. So, we talked about how Bell is basically a type of B.O.W that was manufactured after the collapse of the original Umbrella Corporation and now formed, the Neo Umbrella Group, which is now currently rivals against Blue Umbrella and the Connections. So, after acquiring several different types of viruses and also some of the, some of the progenitor viruses, subcategory viruses, they would make a new type of tyrant, being Bell, aka the new tyrant type known as Tyrant Type Zeus, now infused with four different types of viruses. In this case, the T. Veronica virus, which is a virus that allows him to basically control lesser B.O.Ws, which are created by him. I forgot to specify that. The G virus, which allows him to, regenerate some of his body parts in case if they're, ripped apart, torn apart, or anything like that. The Las Plagas virus, which makes him more human and less, into abomination, just like, they're like the rest of the tyrants, like Nemesis. But he still has like a specific little mutation on one of his eyes, which is, completely noticeable, but he mostly wears a mask to help that. And finally, we have the Mold, aka the Mega Mesite, which basically just increases all of his, um, you know, present powers, including a brand new ability of his, which is basically just manifesting several different types of body parts, which are basically just mutations. Like, for example, making one of his arms into a gigantic ass, muscly arm to basically just punch people to death. So, yeah. So, we talked about how after the whole, thing, they discovered a tablet, or more specifically, a stone tablet, containing some more pieces of the Mega Mesite, which, after extracting it, apparently, after these B.O.Ws that were created by that specific Mega Mesite that they got from that specific, stone tablet, they gained brand new abilities, like, for example, igniting their hands on fire, or legs, or in this case, face, or something like that, or shooting out lasers, or even healing with this almost angelic light. They thought it was almost like magic. I mean, they're right. So, after that, we also meet a new character, or in this case, two new characters, Dr. Lisa Nikitich and Dr. Ragnar. Nikitich being, a surrogate mother for, Bell, and for Dr. Ragnar is basically just a complete asshole and thinks that any tyrant or any B.O.W is just basically a machine or a weapon. So, after using a lesser B.O.W to try and fix that stone tablet, which was basically just a puzzle, after completing that puzzle, the entire place basically just imploded, being the underwater facility, and now they're falling from the sky, and shenanigans gonna rise, as Bell was supposed, or, was told by Dr. Nikitich to go back into his, sleeping cell, so that he wouldn't see that Dr. Nikitich is actually dying. She was dying because of the nearby surrounding area, or more specifically, the area where they're living in now, because it's now infected with several of the different viruses that they collected over the years. Now, she's now dead. And as for Dr. Ragnar, he is teleported to a different area and now is, let's just say ruling it from now on. So, because she's now dead, Bell is forever trapped in that cell, never to wake up. Maybe until now, because there's this new familia that's currently arising, which you probably know, which is the Loki familia, and all of you voted on for Bell to join the Loki familia, so why not? So yeah, after they were told to go to that specific place where Belle is now staying, or should I say, now sleeping in, they were told to go to that area so they can investigate what it is. And so, that was basically the end of that episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, after where we left off, we moved on to the rest of the Loki familia, consisting of Fionn, aka Finn, Rivia, elf, I think? Yeah, she was an elf. Then there's, wait for a second, what's her name? Eyes Wallenstein, and then there's Bet, and also some random members of the Loki familia, which are gonna be turned into, dead meat very soon. Not foreshadowing. Then there's also the dwarf. Actually, the dwarf doesn't join at all, because let's just say he's gonna be pretty important in the story very soon. And I also don't remember his name all that much. So yeah, after a while of trekking through the forest, they found a lead on how they're gonna be making it to, that used to be underwater facility, which now is currently now, sleeping in. So yeah, so after making it into that forest, everybody was told to make camp here for now so they can rest and go towards that area after they fully rested. So, as everybody's basically just resting, having a fun old time, as Titonia, or was her name was... Actually, just let me check her out. I think her name was Titonia, or, Tiona, or Tione. Specifically the one, or at least the Amazon twin that's basically flat. Not even joking. The one that's basically flat is currently looking around, scouting out if there's monsters nearby. So, after a while scouting out, she would tell everybody that there's no monsters nearby as everybody's still partying. She would also join the partying with her sister, Tione. Yeah, Tione, and then there's Tiona, whatever. So, Tione is basically just like partying with the rest of them, as apparently they were wrong. So, one of the random members of the Loki familia would stumble into the forest accidentally as he gets his arm ripped off. As everybody would hear the screaming, they start holding up their weapons as they see an infected monster. What do I mean by this? Well, a monster that's now infected with the Las Plagas. And there's several other monsters infected with several other, viruses. Like, one of them resembles a normal monster, but is technically infected with the, Phobos virus, or whatever the heck it's called. Basically, the virus that literally activates when you're in constant fear. So, yeah. So, as everybody starts charging in, destroying all of these monsters, the random familia member guy, well, he would turn into a zombie instantly, as he would start charging in towards one of his, fellow members, as he would get eaten by him. Everybody else would start shooting at him, as everybody would just be in chaos. One of the monsters would start becoming a little bit scared, as it would transform, or at least mutate, into another zombie. It would start crashing into everybody, as everybody would just be in, constant fear. After a while of fighting, they actually defeat them pretty easily, but those monsters don't turn into dust, or turn into their monster core, but instead are left off just like regular old corpses, not disappearing, as everybody would just be impressed, but also scared, because those are definitely not normal monsters, as one of them would specifically say this, being Bet. What the hell? I thought those monsters were supposed to transform into those monster cores, not turn into regular old corpses. As Fionn would say this, hey, calm down. As Beth would say this, I am calm. What the hell? What the heck is this? Is this some sort of freaking joke? As Eyes would say this, these are definitely not normal monsters. They're definitely something. As one of the bodies which was inhabiting the Las Plagas parasite would start moving, as the Las Plagas parasite, now turned into adult, would start charging in at eyes, as eyes would cut it down easily. As when that parasite was basically gone, that monster would transform back into, into a monster core, turning into dust. But as for the other one that was, infected with the Phobos virus, it would not transform into a monster core, so we will have to get it out by, hand. After getting it out, it doesn't disappear, but still looks like a corpse. So, one of them would speculate that probably that thing that, Ice destroyed was probably the reason why that creature or the monster didn't turn into a monster core. As one of them specifically, Bet, would say this. So whatever that thing is probably causing all of this trouble. I guess that's why this trade route is now abandoned. As one of them would basically say this specifically, Finn would say this exactly. So it's probably thanks to that ruin or whatever it's called. So if that ruin, it probably might be the reason. As one of them specifically, Tione, which was Tione, the big chested one, would say, "Oh, you're absolutely smart, Captain." As one of them would say this, being, well, Tiona would say this, "Sister, we should probably start getting ready." So, as everybody falls asleep, as one of them, or specifically some members, would stay up to protect them, because in case of that monster or specific type of monsters would arrive. So, when the next day comes, they start leaving towards, leaving to go towards that specific, or more specifically, the underwater facility or lab where Bell is currently now living in. Not really living in, but more specifically now in his cell, not, awake. You get it? So, as everybody starts going towards that area, they see some of the remnants of that facility, seeing several papers and some clipboards and also some technology that they don't even know existed. As Bet would start touching all of the buttons, as one of them would say this, "Hey Bet, try and not do that." As Bet would say this, "Oh, shut up, I can do whatever the hell I want." So he starts pressing on all of the keys on the keyboard from this, random computer, as you would think it's quite satisfying. I mean, you're not wrong. So, as they start going towards, the middle of this, broken down, facility, they started seeing several papers, which, when they looked, into it, it's not in a language that they can understand, or more specifically in English, because after all, in this world, it doesn't really have the same language as, English. So, yeah, they don't really know how to, understand this, so they probably just, put it down for now. As Bet, or more specifically, Finn. So, Finn would tell everybody to start grabbing all of these papers, because they probably might be important. Yeah, pretty much important. So, yeah. So, after doing that, they start going towards the middle, as when they do, they get ambushed by more zombies. In this case, some random merchants that were turned into zombies thanks to some of these, parasites basically going into their systems. More specifically, some T viruses and some G viruses, basically wielders. So they start charging in towards the Loki familia, as the rest of the random members basically start killing them. As for the rest of them, they would start going towards the middle. That is where Bell is basically in his pod. Not really awake, but still pretty much alive. You basically get it. So, they also see the remnants of Dr. Nikitich, which she is now a corpse. So, One of them specifically, Tione, would see this, as Tione would say this, Eek! What the heck is that? As Tiona would say this, I think it's a dead body. As one of them would say this, being Finn, Huh, I never seen this before. Especially the clothing, it's definitely weird. It almost resembles a scientist's, well, clothing, but, well, not really of this earth. So Tione would start, well, grabbing the dead corpse and starts, grabbing all of the clothes and starts wearing it, saying, Whoa, it actually feels comfortable. As one of them would say this, being Bet, Hey, get that off. Besides, it might, do something to you. Maybe it might be a curse or something. As she would say this, Stop joking around. As one of them would say this, being Eyes. As Eyes would notice, not Izuku's, I meant Bell's, god dang it. I meant Bell's chamber. As one of them would say this, What the? Says, Bet. As Bet would say this, What the heck is this thing? As one of them would start coming closer to it, being, Rivia. At least I think that's her name. Yeah, Rivia. Rivia would see, or at least look into the glass, as she would see Bell, basically in almost a cradle position, as she would say this, What the? Is that a human being? As one of them would say this, Wait, somebody's inside that thing? Says, Finn, as he would start, putting all of this dust away, as he would look into the glass and sees Bell, basically suspended in this almost liquid-like state. Or at least, like, inside of this, chamber, and liquid is basically all around him. As one of them would say this, So what do you see? As Finn would say this, I think I saw something that we shouldn't. As one of them would say this, being, Tione. Tione would basically just, sees Bell basically suspended in that. As she would say this, We should get him out of here. He might be something that we need to get. Maybe he's... As one of them would say this, being Bet. Just leave him. Besides, he's gonna die here anyway. As Tione would say this, Don't say that. As Tione would say this, wait for a second. Sorry about that. Because you're my superior, it doesn't mean that you have to do anything like that. Especially it comes to a person like, as he would say this, Oh, come on! Besides, he's probably just weak or something like that. As Eyes would just look over and sees a keypad. As when Tione sees it, being the flat-chested one, she would have the compulsive urge to basically just touch all of the buttons instantly. When she does, she starts pressing all of the buttons instantly, as one of them would specifically say this, being Finn. Finn would say, What are you doing? As one of them would say this, being Eyes. Tione, what are you... As she would say this, Come on, it feels super cool. As she would start pressing every single button until she touches one button in particular. When she does, the chamber opens. Sorry about that. When this chamber is open, Bell would come out, as they would see one of his eyes seems to be almost damaged. When one of them, specifically Rivia, would see this, she would start trying to heal him. But it doesn't really work because, that's his default state. When Bell wakes up, seeing all of them, he would forget all of his memories, including Nikitich. But when he looks over and sees Nikitich's dead body, he would get every single memory that he had about him up to the point where she basically told him to go back into his, cell. When he saw this, he almost transforms, turning into his more sadistic, almost, tyrant-like state. Some of his body parts would start changing, transforming into the flesh-like parts, almost similar to the, monster B.O.Ws outside, as everybody would look over as they see, Bell, basically all naked, as every single part of his body is completely covered in this almost rough, almost rock-like skin as Bell would just speak for the first time. Who killed mother? As one of them would say this. Wait, who's your mother exactly? As he would point at the dead body. As one of them would get his arms ready, being bet, as he would say this. Hey, if you're trying to fight us, then... As Bell would just instantly beat him into the ground, as he would say this. Did you kill mother? He would say this. I don't even... As he would start beating him and beating him. As some of these monsters that were fighting the rest of the, Loki familia would start getting attracted to the sound. As they would see Bell. When they saw Bell, they were instantly afraid. Mostly because he's considered as a type of dominant species tyrant. Or more specifically, he has the dominant species of the T. Veronica virus. Which, if you don't know, can command, other lesser B.O.Ws. Because of this, the other B.O.Ws would start running away because they don't want to get controlled. So, after this, everybody would be safe, except for a select few that were basically eaten. So, when the rest of the, Loki familia sees that, the main familia members of this, Loki familia are basically safe, except for Bet, that's being beaten to a pulp, thanks to Bell basically just beating him to the ground, as one of them would say this, being, Finn. Finn would start charging towards him with his spear, as it does nothing, which just basically breaks on contact with his stone-like skin, as everybody would just be, what? How is this? As Bell would say this, who killed As he would look over and sees Tione wearing the same clothes, or the same lab coat, as, Lisa Nikitich. As when he does see it, he would start or at least sees something about her. She kind of reminds him of his mother, except for the flat chest. Sorry, I had to do that to her. So, when he does see, or at least looks at her, he would start coming closer to her, as Tione would say this, hey, what are you doing? As Izuku would start transforming back into a normal young boy. Maybe about 15 now, because, why not? He's now 15. So, Bell would start limping over to her, now naked, as he would say this, Mother. As he would limp over as he falls down onto her shoulder, as Tione would start getting, starts getting a little bit flushed. As in, what do I mean by that? Well, she starts turning a bit red, as everybody would say this. Wait, Bet, are you okay? As Bet would just say this. What the heck is this guy? He instantly beaten me, Jesus! What the heck is he? As everybody would start coming towards, Bet, as everybody would start looking at Bell. Bell would just be sleeping, completely tired, as he's currently in the arms of Tione. As Tione would say this, what should we do with him? As everybody else would say this, how about we should bring him? So, as everybody starts leaving this little area, and also getting some of these, some of these, papers that were scattered all around, the facility, and also getting some, strange-looking technology, or more specifically, I meant the technology that they gotten from the facility, or more specifically, the research, machines or whatever. They would start going back home, even though the technology that they started, grabbing is pretty much heavy and started breaking the carriages. But they somehow did it without any hitches, except for the occasional monster towards them, but they instantly defeated them because, Loki familia, brr. So, after that, they started leaving the facility, or at least the facility that's basically just destroyed. So yeah. So, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!